You're listening to Business Briefing presented by Uity. Visit youity.com.
Well, the economy is strong, but it's still very challenging for small and medium-sized businesses across America to gain access to capital and credit. We think that's about to change, though, thanks to a proprietary model and a gentleman who's been a small business owner himself. Michael Finkelstein is the CEO of the Credit Junction. They have a very different model when it comes to helping you access capital. Hey, Michael, thanks for joining us. Access to credit for business owners, small business, medium-sized business. This is a hot topic because, let's rewind back to 2008 and the credit crisis. And, there's so much talk about the banks and, how they've injected capital into the business economy. And they have to a certain extent. But this is still a big issue for small and medium-sized business owners, isn't it?
Well, Brian, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And you're exactly right. It really is. I think we can all agree that the world changed after 2008, and traditional financial institutions were forced for a variety of reasons to reevaluate what products they were in, whether that was increased compliance or regulatory overhang, or just looking at what was profitable and what wasn't. And to a large extent, we have seen a shift away from the smaller side of the product scale, whether that's consumer-based or small business-based, and a gravitation of these traditional financial institutions to larger deal sizes. And what that's allowed for is an opening in the market. And we're part of a new wave of companies that is trying to fill that need through a combination of traditional lending metrics combined with various data and technologies in order to open up that credit to, in our case, small and mid-sized businesses.
There's definitely an opportunity here for what you're doing, because I can tell you there's probably thousands of business owners listening to this show right now who are saying, I've got a great business and, you can check 8 of the 10 boxes, but I didn't have those 2 checked and didn't get the financing I needed or the loan I needed or the line of credit. And that obviously creates huge issues for business owners.
Well, it really does. And access to credit is the lifeblood of any business, but especially a small business. And I think the reality is those business owners are seeing the potential to increase their product offering, or they're seeing increased demand for that product. And how are they going to satisfy that demand? And let's not forget that access to credit also is a great provider for not only the small business owners, for the employees. It creates job creation. It leads to community development. And I think the overhang and the regulatory nature is such that banks or traditional financial institutions really are looking at a very boxed approach. And if you don't fall into that box, unfortunately, a lot of times their hands are tied. And I think what is happening in the market is, and you see it especially on the small and mid-sized areas, is that there are alternatives. And I would encourage all small business owners listening to this to do research, and whether it's the Credit Junction or not, there are a wealth of alternatives now open to you. And putting the right capital structure in place really will solve a lot of problems near term and prepare you for what is hopefully a prosperous long term.
Credit Junction CEO Michael Finkelstein joining us from New York, the Big Apple, here with some great insight. Now, asset-based lending, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been around for a long time, but what you're doing is really taking it to a, for lack of a better word, a 21st century level, right, of insight.
That is exactly right, Brian. I think asset-based lending, tried and true, has been around a long time and traditionally operates for companies that need loans, let's call it greater than 5 or 10 million. I think the companies that are in growth mode that need less than that have really traditionally relied on their local or regional banks to provide that capital. What we're doing is we have seen the market. We have looked at the exit of a lot of traditional financial institutions and said, can we employ an asset-based lending model, a model that looks at a company's receivables or inventory or equipment, and that same company is looking for growth capital more times than not, and offer a company an asset-based loan that doesn't need 5 or 10 or 20 or 100 million, but needs 1 or 2. And we do that through what we think is pretty elegant use of some data and technology, not only during the process, but really trying to automate a lot of the monitoring functions that will alleviate the needs for these small business owners to be sending reports every day and spending more and more time on the operational integrity and satisfaction of the lender versus focused on their business. And we think if we can create an automated system that this product, which quite frankly has not been available to companies that need $1 million or $1.5 million or even less than that, we think it'll be very appealing to those small business owners.
No doubt about it. The Credit Junction CEO, Michael Finkelstein, joining us here on Business Briefing. And give us your background, Michael, because I know that this is, you've built your own business here around this business model. So to get it from, start to where you're at right now, I mean, you had, your own challenges, as we all do, building business to overcome, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a small business owner, just like your listeners. I started my career working early as an analyst, and then decided to go back to school. And after that, really had a passion for starting businesses. Quite frankly, I failed a lot early on and learned a lot from it, and got up each time and tried to align myself with good teams and good, really professionals. I mean, creating a small business is a dream for any person who really wants to own a small business. But what I also found during the way, that access to capital helps fulfill that vision. And I found even in times that I may have had some moderate success, that accessing capital was really a gating factor. And so I am like a lot of your listeners. I've run small businesses that were, successful, and I've started small businesses that may have not been, and I learned along the way and feel a passion for creating something. And in this case, what we're creating is a small business focused on helping other small businesses.
I know that message resonates, and we have hundreds, if not thousands, of business owners and executives listening across the region every weekend. And I want to point them in the right direction because, these are issues that they face. What's the first step in working with you and Credit Junction that might be different than what they're traditionally used to?
Yeah, I think, Brian, it's a good question. First and foremost, having been a small business owner and not a lender of capital my entire almost adult life, the Credit Junction is a partner more than it is a lender. Yes, we're providing capital, but we believe that we can be a partner in all things related to the financial integrity and operations of the company. One of the things we pride ourselves on is making sure that any applicant or borrower, for that matter, knows exactly where they stand at any point during the process. I can't even tell you, I've heard countless stories of people going into a bank and applying for a loan, and unfortunately it falls into a world that they don't hear back, or it has to get put up the chain. We pride ourselves on being not only transparent but informative at any step of the way. So while we use data and technology efficiently and to create this product for these small business owners, there's a human behind it. You're going to have a human relationship. You're going to have a person you can call it during the application process, and then any time thereafter if you decide to come on the Credit Junction platform. So we think we've blended this notion of using a next generation kind of look at the health of your business and taking you out of that box, and combined it with the human qualities of customer service that we all have grown to really appreciate. And I think that's really what makes the process different for us.
Okay, now you're wondering how you get in touch with Michael and his team. Pretty simple, thecreditjunction.com. Thecreditjunction.com. When we come back, we'll talk travel and the interesting article in Bloomberg on Expedia. That's up next as Business Briefing continues across the Great Northwest.